This daily exercise drawing is a scene from the Belgian city of Ghent. And we have a large tree followed by a large stone building going off down a cross street. And I made this a challenge to do in 10 minutes. This one also took me 12 minutes. I made this a challenge to do by drawing it larger than I normally draw these. And so it did reinforce to me just the size with which we draw a drawing does make a difference how quickly, certainly, we can get it done. The larger the drawing, simply the longer it takes us to draw lines across the space that we have to draw them. And when we have something such as this very large tree here, which requires some reasonable amount of hatching to help create the form, then particularly we end up with a lot more hatching to actually do. And the darker we want our value areas to be, the more hatching there is. I fussed far too much about trying to get these, castellation marks, indents in the top of the mock castle wall for the archers to fire their arrows from. Spent way too long trying to make those even for the sort of drawing this was, and didn't even do a particularly good job for all that. So now I'm determined, feeling that I'm already behind the 8 ball with speed, make up some time with this large tree. For my scale, I actually drew that triangular shape in the top right corner, the one that I did start with. And I tried to get the proportions of that and the angles of that correct. And then draw the tree around and then do the rest of it. But my triangle, if you like, was larger than the one in the reference, and so the whole drawing comes out larger than what was already a relatively large print for me to draw for these 5 to 10 minute quick daily sketches. But of course, if we'd wanted to do a little more detail on less of the drawing, I could have stopped the building at this point here, at this width, and not have continued it down the street, and just focused on developing both the building, the stone texture, and the tree with more detail, and added something to street level. So we don't always have to draw the entire drawing. If we're having an enjoyable time doing even in the 10 minutes what we're doing, then we can pull back on the extent of the drawing that we're trying to do and focus a little more on developing some areas of it. Or we could work at getting, if you like, the outline, the scope of the drawing on paper, and then the next day we can come back to the same drawing. There is absolutely no reason why we have to do a totally separate drawing every 10 or 15 minute daily exercise. We can continue a drawing, but if we do, I would recommend that we still try and make it fairly brisk, and we actually have a target, some sort of complete drawing task to do on that drawing, so that we still have a sense of there's something I need to complete in this session, because we do want a little bit of drive pushing us along. We do want a sense that there is some sort of time pressure for something. We don't want to do a 12-hour drawing in 10-minute increments. So the thing with this scene is we do want to get some sort of contrast between the tree and the stonework. That was part of the appeal that this scene had for me. We had this massive tree on the side that in colour and form and texture and value was all very different to what we were seeing in the architecture. Now, this building is severely foreshortened. It slopes away from us at a very extreme angle, so therefore we need to be narrowing these windows, both the smaller ones on top and the high ones at ground level or near ground level. So trying to do that. But there's no time really to do anything more than gestural approximation of the foreshortening. So now I realise how little of the tree I've actually done and how much of the time has gone past. So I realise this will be a very abrupt, quick rendering of the lower half of the tree. Really quite a dark part of our drawing, which I think really helps set off the sunlit long side of the building, but unfortunately not going to have time in this drawing to really explore that. I think part of what these quick 10-minute drawings are meant to do is to leave us frustrated at the possibilities for our drawing that we're simply not going to have time to explore. Because what that does is it makes us want to come back at a later time and do a more considered drawing of the same scene or of a similar scene. That's a big part of this. It's not just the drawing, but it's being able to sit there for a moment and breathe that creative air and hopefully, therefore, want to do it more and be able to find more time at some later stage or squeeze more time at some later stage to have a more rounded drawing experience. So really just trying to get some lines to differentiate where the darker values are meant to be. And the time is very much slipping away at this point, and I still have the rest of the building to do. But as I said, I could have stopped here and just worked at the tree more and perhaps a few more details at ground level, and that would have been just as helpful a way to use my 10 minutes for this quick drawing. But it does feel like the sheet of paper is half empty and I need to fill it up a little bit more. So onwards I go. And so the main challenge here is the perspective angles, to have them looking in that fan-shaped pattern that we need from a horizontal line at ground level, if there is in fact a horizontal line at, not ground level, at eye level, and then a fanning of angles as our angles move above that, and angled in the other direction if we have horizontal lines going below that. So it's really the same sorts of items that I've already drawn, architectural elements that I've already drawn. It's simply repeating them going further down the street with more and more foreshortening. And now getting these arched elements above the windows. And we're really here just going for the effect, not for the detail. Certainly not working out in my head which lines are inwards and outwards facing. And so now we have the final further down the street continuation where the foreshortening is even greater and therefore the suggestion of detail will be more. And we have another tower that matches that first tower that we've drawn up the other end of the street. And I've certainly noticed how much time I've taken at this stage, so that encourages me to be extremely gestural in this last section. And here we go, just with the the turret on the tower. And at this point, I'm thinking, oh, have I got time to do anything at ground level? And I think, look, rather than that, I'm just wanting to give some indication of stone. I want to give some sort of sense of castle effect, if not in actuality. And so I do a little bit of suggestion of stonework up in that top corner. And then that's pretty much it. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope you've enjoyed this little trip to Ghent. And of course, you'll get to find this reference on my channel community page. So why don't you have a look at it, print off a copy, and have a go drawing it. But look, whatever you do, whatever you draw, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.